Om Shanti. So welcome all of you to the Values Workshop on Farsightedness. Before we start, let us sit back, spend a few minutes in silence with the self, trying to rediscover this value within ourselves. On this auspicious last day of Diwali, which is called the Bhaiya Dooj, let's try to invoke this feeling of spiritual brotherhood amongst us. It could be also one aspect of farsightedness, whereby I look at every soul with the soul brotherly attitude. And having done that, this shall make my relationships bloom. And with this far-sighted approach, I can then win over people's hearts. So with this beautiful thought, let's begin the workshop today. I'll just stop sharing the screen. So welcome all of you. Thank you for being on time. We'll have more people joining. So let's begin, and we have our facilitators with us. So both joining from the west coast of US and Canada. So Sister Anu and Sister Shruti. So thank you for joining. And before I start, I would just want to say that it's a beautiful occasion. We are meeting each other on this Bhaiya Dooj, the last day of Diwali, which we celebrate, trying to invoke this spiritual brotherhood amongst ourselves, trying to look at each other with the soul conscious vision, the brotherly vision, as we say in Hindi. Shruti, sister, for the first activity. Over to you.
Thank you, Manoj Bhai. I'll get started. So as Manoj Bhai talked about, today's topic is about farsightedness. So what we are going to do in this first activity is really think about this thought without overthinking. So when you think about farsightedness or durdrishti, what comes to your mind? Again, without overanalyzing it, without going into a lot of semantics, what comes to your mind when you think about farsightedness? And I can start looking at the chat. I have Jujer Singh saying concentration. Anybody else? Beyond. Sanam says beyond. Prajakta says vision. Anybody else? Wisdom. Wait, sister. Sister Ranu says being at peace now. Rachar says less time, more benefit. Vijay says farsightedness to see the past, present, and future to take decision. Very nice. And Rachna Ban says futuristic. Okay. Anybody else? give it. Manoj Bhai says intellectual. I think that's enough sharing, I think, to get us started and get the theme of this of today going today, this morning or this evening. We have one more. PK Jagdish Bhai says, seeing present karma's consequence before doing it. So I think lots of good sharings to get the mood going. Present karma's consequences, past, present, future, futuristic, intellectual, being at peace, less time. So I think this is a future prediction. So great. I think that has really set us into the mood for today. Let's then move into our next exercise, and I'll stop sharing and pass it on to Anuben.
Thank you so much, Shruti sister. Yes, with that basis, let's begin our first exercise on farsightedness, and that is about reflecting on the attributes of a farsighted person. So we will reflect on a farsighted person whom we know, whom we admire, or who is in our mind and attention, who comes right now, who could be a religious or spiritual figure, political leader, or even anyone in your home, family, workplace, whom you can now remember who has been farsighted. Take a moment on that and reflect on what are the qualities that they show, hold, display that make them farsighted. So let's start with it. I'll give you about 1 minute to reflect on it. I hope you could connect with a person who comes to your mind right now who has been farsighted. What were the qualities or what else you want to share about them? If you can share, that would be great. Start, we all can have an understanding about it. So here, and I welcome all of you to please raise your hands, unmute yourselves, and share. Anyone to start with it? Anyone in your life whom you are seeing at the moment, connecting with, who has been farsighted? You want to share?
And then I think we have one in the chat box, Swami Vivekananda, knowledge and wisdom.
Knowledge and wisdom, Swami Vivekananda. And I think, Shruti sister, you are noting them down. And I hope everybody can unmute themselves, right? Yes. You can put in the chat box if you like, or you can, it is good if you can unmute and share. Bring on your energy to share with us with that. Yes, Vidhi sister, you can't unmute yourself.
Yeah, my grandfather.
Grandfather.
Yeah, and quality was economical, savings, and family bonding.
Economical, savings, and family bonding. That's beautiful. So that are the qualities of farsightedness. You connected that way.
Yeah, his quality.
That's beautiful. Okay, so family bonding is connected with farsightedness. So he's seeing the benefit through that. Nice. I don't know that we cannot go to much of the elaboration, but that's really beautiful connection. Farsightedness, that family bonding. Anyone else? Yes,
Om Shanti, Didiji.
Yes, Vijay Bhai, go ahead.
I feel after having a dhyan and knowledge of Baba, Brahma Baba had a vision of farsightedness, how the existing world can be transformed into a golden age, is the best example of farsightedness. Baba bless you all.
Thank you, brother. So our founding father of Brahma Kumari is Brahma Baba. Due to his farsightedness, the whole revolution began, and so many in the whole world are being benefited. So thank you so much for bringing that up, Vijay Bhai. I have few on the chat box. I'll take that up before we again go for verbal sharing. So Hilal says, trust in people, encourages people, and has hope. So she's putting what are the results of farsightedness. Trust in people, encourages people, and has hope. Rachna again says Brahma Baba, the divine intellect, visionary, and benevolent are the qualities that he. Manoj brother says Mahatma Gandhi, who showed economy and non-violence. So that were the qualities for his farsightedness. C.K. Veena, sister says, clear intellect, detached perspective, power to discern and decide for the benefit of one and all. And she recognizes that his father showed those qualities. That were the qualities of farsight. Sanam says, Sangeeta Didi, maybe her own sister, she doesn't mention that. And the qualities that she showed are detachment, that is beyond right and wrong, accuracy, intuitive, stillness of mind, always giving. So many. So Swati sister says, we have a very nice example here, Brother Manoj. That's the example whose farsightedness is towards taking initiative and organizing offline Vihasa programs. So we understand how we benefit from bringing values to our lives. So thank you for recognizing that and bringing up Swati sister. I think we want to now request whoever wants to share, unmute and share. Sister Harpreet, you want to share?
Yes, Shanti, everybody. For me, as Dadi Janki came to my mind today is when we were talking about farsightedness. So her peaceful nature, giving, caring, being first is who I am, and then doing. And she was very visionary and always have that as a togetherness and detach and love it. So many qualities.
So many qualities. I hope Shruti sister, you caught them. But yeah, that's true. Dadi Janki, always just the thought of her inspires us and empowers us. Yeah. Thank you so much.
A fine example of doing, and then is giving others encouragement of adding value to the self and others.
Yeah. So you said it right. Her farsightedness brought her to be who she was, being always there in that expanded. Somebody said beyond is the word came to their mind when they thought of farsightedness. So she was always beyond. Thank you. Thank you, Harpreet sister. Anyone else would like to share? Who you see as farsighted, who has inspired, or who right now, as we reflect on, give you that example of farsightedness in your life? Or anybody, as we are sharing, you are getting that idea. So we have some more on chat box. Rachna sister says, Modi ji, selfless and determination are the qualities farsightedness. I'm sure we all can appreciate the cleanliness, whatever hard way, but he was clear what he was doing. Farsightedness. Juja Singh says his auntie, she builds up positive related thoughts beforehand and be fully clear. So the actions are very confident that way if you have that vision from before and you created that positive thoughts. That's right. Thank you, Jujar brother. We want to hear more. Yes, Dennis sister, go
Good
ahead.
morning. I think for me, seeing great leaders and visionaries from the past, those that have detachment and have a very clear intellect and can see where the society is headed and have a very powerful vision for a better reality for the future. So you need a level of detachment and somebody mentioned intuition, stillness of mind, clarity, and
So many
obviously-
qualities that go
Yeah.
with farsighted.
and the vision, for the future of humanity.
Any example you remember?
Well, I'm thinking of Dalai Lama, and back in history, there would have been Jesus Christ and the Buddha and those great souls. And of course, we have the experience of great souls in our community. And the Supreme Soul or God would have the highest vision or can see the whole thing. So, but I was also thinking of people like, well, I don't want to get political, but Barack Obama, I thought was pretty, had a good vision.
Right.
And the young little soul, what's her name? In Sweden, that sees where we're going. What's her name?
Greta.
Greta
With-
Thunberg. Yes.
Yeah.
Shanti.
So nice. You brought so many from the whole world, and that gives us a very clear idea too, that this farsightedness and how we can have it in us. We all have it, however, but yeah, seeing it more within us. Thank you, Sister Denise. Anybody else? We have more time. Yes, who is it speaking? Sorry. Yeah, right.
Suresh bhai, yeah.
Yeah, Om Shanti. So it was my high school science teacher, and for teaching some basic life principles like what you give is what you get. Like you using Newton's third law, which is every action has equal and opposite reaction. But also Baba says right, Sukdo, Suklo.
That's so beautiful. Science and spirituality come together. So what we give comes back. Give happiness, receive happiness. So that's farsightedness. What we give comes back to us. Thank you, Jayesh brother. Few more sharings we are inspired to really reflect through farsightedness. Anything more from anyone? I know Manoj brother will call out names maybe and help, or maybe not. We can do that as well, but I see a lot of names, new or who have been regular participants. If you are inspired to share, you're most welcome.
So Anu sister, maybe we can see if we can get more sharings in the next activity.
Sure. Okay, so we can now wrap up. Maybe you can see what we gathered through the system.
Yes, we did get lots.
Right, we got a lot, and we actually reflected through as we saw it. So knowledge, wisdom, economical, these are the qualities we are seeing of being farsighted, non-violence, detached perspective, going beyond right and wrong, accuracy, intuitiveness, stillness of mind, clear intellect, being true to themselves, taking initiatives, determination, positive thoughts, visionary, and we got so many examples. I think we'll also add those examples in this sharing slide, and then we'll share with all of you when we send our review materials after the session. So with this, I think we'll wrap up this exercise and we'll move forward, more deeper understanding. So I hand it over to Brother Manu.
Okay, thank you so much. Beautiful sharings indeed. I think one common thing which I can see, I saw the last sharing. I loved the last sharing, which doesn't mean I didn't like the other ones before. But Sister Beena is saying Supreme Soul who sees us beyond our present reality and limitations. That's perfect. I must say that's the icing on the cake, because that's what I'm going to do with you all in the next 3 to 5 minutes. What we could gather from the sharings that you need a very powerful intellect to be far-sighted. And I remember Brijmohan Bhai, when he took the talk for us, he said the word divine intellect. So divinizing our intellect is a very important process needed to develop far-sightedness. And for that, divinity is a very strong word. I mean, it's not very easy to become divine in one day. So what we need to work on is in the work, that's the reason the workshops we have kept here, so that we are in the process of going towards far-sightedness if we still are not able to develop that. So I think the first two important things which also come in the Murlis, what we call the spiritual classes which we have daily at Brahma Kumaris, is having a clean and clear intellect. And particularly if I would want to dissect this further, it's having a clean mind and a clear intellect. So if you just, before I go into the meditation mode and visualization mode with you all, I would just want to tell you all, give you an example that if you want to look at something far off physically, you need to have a clear vision. If there is some dust in between, or if you inside have maybe cataract, or if you have some floaters in the eyes, you really can't see that, right? So same thing is on a, apologies for the noise here from my mobile. So in the same way, if we translate this into on a spiritual level, if I need to have a far-sighted vision for myself in future and maybe now as well, then I need to really make sure that I get rid of all this kachara which I have. Sorry, I mean using the word very flamboyantly, but it means all the dirt which is there in the mind, and we call it the dirt of waste thoughts and even negative thoughts. All that has to really go out. So for that, we need to start developing on having a clean mind and a clear intellect. So before we move on to the action planning in the next 3-4 minutes, I'll just request all of you to be in the meditative mode. I'll just take you into a small visualization, and I'll start sharing the screen as well, so that you all can see. I'm sorry. Yeah, so as you can see in the slide in front of you is, I'm sorry, it's again gone back. Yeah. So you can see it's having a divine intellect, and that's what we call the third eye. So as I started today with the meditation commentary of developing this soul brotherly vision or attitude towards each other, that can only happen once my mind is clean and my intellect is clear. So let's sit back, take a few deep breaths in and out. Relax your body and mind. And visualize yourself to be this beautiful, conscient energy. The beautiful energy that I am, which is indeed full of all the virtues and powers. I am clean. My mind is getting rid of all the waste and negative thoughts. And in this clean mind, now I can feel the energy of the Supreme. Visualize the Supreme Being as this beautiful, sparkling energy. Trying to make my intellect clearer. And with this clean and clear intellect, I can now move towards the journey of divinizing my intellect. That is, looking at each other with the soul conscious attitude. I can't do it by myself, but it's only the Supreme Being who's able to help me to do that. I have indeed opened my third eye now. And with this, let me move on to my workplace and use the third eye to develop farsightedness. So with this little bit of teaser on how to get rid of waste thoughts, I would now pass it on to Shruti sister for the next activity. Over to you. Thank you.
So
Yes, sorry. Before I forget, I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah, so if if there are new participants who want to be a part of the workshops in future as well, and you all want to be intimated about the same, you can please feel free to share your WhatsApp numbers and emails. Either you can send it to everyone or to Vidhi's sister. She can be seen as Vidhi, so you can do that. Thank you. Over to you, sister.
So as we went through the visualization, we took our intellect into our workplace. And even as we did the exercise before that, we were thinking about all the qualities of a far-sighted person. We all know the importance of having a vision. The word vision and visionary came up a few times. So when you think about your workplace or even your home, what I would encourage you to do in this next exercise is reflect on this particular value and think about what your home and your workplace or your workplace can achieve with that kind of intellect. Remember the words that came up in the previous exercise: visionary, clear, true to themselves. So with all of that reflection, I encourage you to take a few minutes to really think about what your workplace and home could look like with that kind of clear and that kind of far-sighted intellect. And I'll play soft music again, as always, to help you for a couple of minutes. And then we can come back for sharing. So, any thoughts? Any sharings? Would you like, is there anything you would like to share with all of us? How could we transform our homes and our workplaces by practicing far-sighted intellect?
Om Shanti Didiji.
Om Shanti Vijay Bhai.
First of all, today's message of Bhai Dooj is brotherhood. Now, if we can always remember that we are all brothers, and remember our Atmic Swarup, that we are the soul and you are also the soul. So we have a connection soul to soul. You are also pure, having all the virtues of goodness. So we can achieve anything, whether it's a workplace, whether it is a home. You will get love because you will give love, peace, happiness to all, and they will be near to you. They will give cooperation to you, and your journey will be peaceful and happiness, and you will reach your destination. Om Shanti, Baba bless you all.
Thank you. So several points in that: universal brotherhood, more in just an environment of love and peace, achieve higher goals. A lot in that message there, or a lot in your comment there, Vijay Bhai. Thank you. There's also a comment in the chat box from Sanam. She says, through far-sighted intellect, we can make the surrounding light and fun. Life becomes entertainment. Very true. Light and fun, and we are looking for that. Anybody else?
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
I guess what came to mind for me was bringing in more patience into the work, because sometimes it can get a little frustrating if it's not, one day it's not turning out the way I want.
Sure.
So bringing in a lot more patience so that I can actually bring in more blessings into it and bring in more love, because especially if you're working on like something like maybe art, I don't know, I can feel like sometimes I get negative about it, but I want to be able to bless it more with love. And yeah, so patience and then determination also.
Very nice. So patience, determination, and love. And I liked what you said very briefly there, that recognition that this is just one day, but there's another day, and just staying, keeping that perspective. So that was very beautiful. Thank you. Anybody else? I know many of our organizations weathered various shocks with COVID, and that became a constant discussion in many circles about how well planned we are.
Om Shanti, not that I didn't understand, but can you maybe exemplify what is the word? Like, can you maybe elaborate the question? Because I mean, in Gyani words, I can say the answer, but to make Gyan in practice is the reason that we joined the workshop. So can you elaborate a bit about the question of the workshop? Thank you.
So precisely like what Sister Rachel and some others have shared, like when you start thinking not just about today or what you're able to see in your current environment, when you are able to see that there is more than just your present circumstances. That's farsightedness. And the more you practice this value, and of course, it will always be powered by meditation and some of the other practices that we talk about and we lead in the Brahma Kumaris, or like you said, in the Jnani life, or through Gyan. So as you practice some of this in your experience, or based upon your reflection, if you practice this kind of virtue or value, how do you think your workplace or your home would be transformed? That's the question. So when you start looking beyond your immediate circumstances, you start looking into the future, how do you think your home or workplace would get transformed?
If I can share something, for me, I was seeing my home. For me, farsightedness is seeing that of a few moments of relaxed sitting together, the family having dinner together and sharing their energy, their time. For that, I have to be farsighted in the morning, that moments can be created through my presence, my dinner ready. And I was thinking of that at home. So like that, what I can achieve at workplace has also the same thing, that what is that we are accomplishing the task at the end, the whole project, what is that I can do from my end to make it happen.
Very nice. Thank you, Sister Anu. And since we are sharing, even though we're facilitators, for me, farsightedness made me think about my workplace. And like I was saying, the kind of shocks that the industries around the world have faced with COVID kind of made you think, how far in the future are we really thinking about the way we are approaching our people, our finances, our business, our customers, and can we do more? Because they could, and there most likely will be other shocks in the system. So how can we plan better? How do we retain people? How do we motivate them differently? How do I approach my product differently? So those are some examples. And there's a comment there in the chat which says, could you say farsightedness is also connected to her hope? I would certainly like to believe so. But again, this is about you and how you're approaching this value and virtue. And again, we would love to hear from you.
I think we can wrap it up. Maybe time is.
Yeah. Okay. So with that, I can pass it to Manoj Bhai.
I just wrote a few things so that anyway, this is something that we take home to reflect what is that we can achieve through farsighted intellect. So we'll share this as well. Just wanted to.
Anuben, we got a couple more sharings. Rachna says about being focused, sorted, good leader, and easy nature. And so focused, sorted, good leader, easy nature. And with Rashmi, she's saying remaining light, practicing remaining light, no matter what the circumstances are at home or workplace. So remaining light and practicing to stay light.
Okay. So yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you so much. Let's wrap it up here. Yes, Shruti sister?
Yes.
So
as you try to wrap up, there are more sharings. It's okay. Maybe you can just copy paste Anu's sister rather than writing from the chat box. You can just copy paste on the screen. Okay. Yeah. So shall I go ahead? Our Shruti sister, you want to wrap up? I'll just go ahead.
No, please go ahead. There's just a couple of nice sentences. Manoj Bhai, if you can just say it aloud for 1 second. Hilal says, learning from past incidents and applying it to now to save time and energy. That's beautiful. And Jairpai says, visionary, envisioning, believing what you want to see yourself. And you're right, Manoj, we got one more. Bina says, acknowledging that present is present, meaning the outcome of our past action, and that it's also a present, meaning a gift to create the desired future by consciously choosing our actions. So beautiful. And at this point, I think we will move on to the next section.
Okay, apologies. We are not able to really, the sharings are very beautiful as I'm reading them, but that is the shortcoming of this workshop. I must say, I must totally admit that, because we really don't give a lot of time to understand those sharings. But nevertheless, we always send you them in the review materials, which comes as an email to all of you. And all your sharings, mind well, none of them is missed. So all of your sharings are there in that PDF file. It's a PPT file converted, so you all can read it later. So thank you so much. And let's move on. This farsightedness value is a very, I must say, difficult value, because it is not really discussed very often. It's a highly spiritual value compared to like love, peace, purity, which are very commonly discussed even in spiritual gatherings or even in BK gatherings. I must say, BK means Brahma Kumari gatherings, for people who don't know what BK stands for. So for this, we had chosen Brother Brijmohan Bhai Sahab. Very beautiful, a very intellectual soul, a very senior brother of our organization and the chief spokesperson. So I'll just share the screen and I'll start showing you in the next around, say, 15 minutes what he had spoken about farsightedness. We had chosen him for another talk before on success. So success and farsightedness are very closely related to each other. I would just want to draw attention for people who are here that to be successful, you need to be far-sighted. And Brother Brijmohan very quickly covered these 5 M's, which I'll just cover for you. And I'll go that in a bit of depth, and then I'll start sharing. So say for any venture, any business, or anything you want to be successful, you really start thinking about money. You also think about materials, and you also think about machines, if it's some production house or something. But all these 3 are more of on a physical level. If you don't have manpower, that's the 4th M. So I'll repeat: money, materials, and machines. The next we need after this is someone to drive the machine, someone to drive the money, to decide where to invest, etc., etc. So we need manpower. So we need the subtle faculty, which means along with the physical, we have manpower. So it's human mind, in short, mind. That also is not enough. Next, I think, is method. That's what brother said, vidhi se siddhi. I remember this very well. And he also mentioned that there is a method of doing everything. If that machine is not properly dealt with by the human mind, it can even cause harm to the human being, to the person. So there is its method. And not only all these, there's another M which is needed to make you successful in business so that you flourish. And that is through advertisement, and we call marketing. So you really need to market your business. In the sense, you need to portray it, what you're doing. And nowadays, media, another M coming in, that can help you in doing all that. So it's very important that money, materials, and machines are taken care of by the subtle mind, that is the manpower, a proper method, and then a proper marketing. So brother always wants to do it as a dialogue, and we are so fortunate today. We have Sister Jenna joining in the next 10 minutes with us. She also wants to do it as a dialogue, question answer session, not as a lecture format. So you please start rolling into your questions soon to me in the chat box. So I had asked Brother Brijmohan Bhai Sahab, what is the difference between farsightedness and being foresightedness? So he beautifully said that look before you leap, think before you speak. So that is something foresight. So if a person who is foresighted can be definitely farsighted. And in Hindi, we try to say that again and again as Duran Deshi Buddhi. And very eloquently or very deeply, Bhai Sahab touched here that there is a lot of difference between the farsightedness of a worldly person and that of a spiritual person. The moment you start developing spirituality in your life, your farsightedness starts getting new dimensions and new approaches, because it is not about material things which you want in life. You want something else, for which also in spirituality you need farsightedness. How do we develop that? He gave us two beautiful things which I tried to cover, the clean mind and the clear intellect, but Bhai Sahib said it's Vishal Buddhi and Divya Buddhi. So when we say Vishal Buddhi, it's basically someone who is thinking on a broader perspective, a broad-minded person. And very important is not only the clean mind needed for developing a broad mind, but the intellect needs to be divine. Because he gave a beautiful example that there are many scientists in the world, highly intellectual people in their respective professions. But if they are developing bombs or nuclear weapons, that intelligence really is a big question mark, because that is taking you in some other direction. So here Bhai Sahib mentioned, which I have written in Hindi. Apologies, I'll translate it because it's there in our spiritual teachings. This word often comes, Vinash Kale Viparit Buddhi Vinashayanti. So during the period of these destruction, this period is a very tough time of destruction. All of you know in what perspective I'm saying destruction. At this point of time, if I have an intellect which is ready to destroy the world more, then really I'm heading towards Vinash, which is I'm heading towards more destruction. So this type of farsightedness is not needed, because this is usually the materialistic farsightedness which Bhai Sahib was trying to allude to. So we all, being in the spiritual world, we want to do something which is constructive. Our intellect should do something constructive. And that, he said, can develop through meditation. Meditation can beautifully teach us this another quality of, you all covered it in the workshop, quite a few answers came on that, being Trikaldarshi. That is, knowing the three aspects of time, because the past, present, and future are closely related to each other. And it is only what I have done in the past that becomes my present, and that indeed becomes my future. So we need to make sure that we need to work on our present so that we have a beautiful future. This is the famous picture of the Raj Yoga. I won't go in that detail, but it is again alluding to what are the three aspects of time. What was there, what is now in this very tough times which we are living in, and what is supposed to come to. I'm sure you're all waiting for a new age to come to. We are celebrating Diwali as a festival of lights, everything new. We try to wear new dresses, try to cook new things, etc., etc. But the Supreme Being tells us here that it is something much more beyond this, because we are trying to just improvise on the old things. New age is completely something new, whereby we have new sanskars and a new way of living. So for that, we need to develop the third eye. We gave you a glimpse of that in the meditation visualization, which I did for you all in the 3-5 minutes. But we'll be going on that in detail more with Sister Jenna. I'm sure she'll give you all a much more broader perspective of farsightedness. And in short, if I want to say third eye, it means divine intellect. When my mind is so clean and my intellect is so clear, my decision making really becomes absolutely flawless. And then my intellect doesn't need to think what is good or bad. It really becomes divine. And when we say divine, we try to say that it is similar to the souls who are 100% soul consciousness. That is all the deities in the golden age. So we really become divine. And if you are divine in your intellect, farsightedness just follows. And obviously it's not a one-day job. It needs to be practiced. And the more we start practicing in our life, it will become more and more natural. Bhai Sahib was asked a question on which are the powers which are needed to we need to develop in ourselves for developing farsightedness. So he first mentioned it was really a beautiful power of silence. You know, in this age of science and technology all around, sometimes this power of silence is really taking a back seat. So once we sit with ourselves in solitude and develop this power of silence, we can become more farsighted. And two other powers, which I already alluded to, one of them, that is the power of discernment, that is to try to discriminate what is good or what is bad, Parak Shakti called in Hindi. And after that, the power to accommodate, Samane ki Shakti. So it's important, Bhai Sahib mentioned that a far-sighted intellect will be able to accommodate everyone's weak sanskars, everyone's weaknesses, won't try to splash it out, but would want to accommodate. there were a few questions which were asked, and I'll take these questions. The first was someone has sent his son abroad for further studies, and he fell into bad company and started wasting the money. So is it my mistake as a father that I have sent my son abroad? So we should not say it's a mistake, but it is lack of farsightedness, because if we want to send someone abroad who is not going to be in our domain at all, he will be in a completely different country, different culture. We need to look at various factors before taking on to this step. And second thing was a little bit humorous question about how in India arranged marriages are really properly arranged, in the sense the horoscopes are properly matched of the prospective husband and the wife. But despite that, many marriages in India, arranged marriages in India, also fall apart. And the reason Bhai Sahab said is, it is not that that is one factor. There are many things which depend on the marriage. Successful marriage depends on them, and it's basically burning down to sanskars of a person. Though a horoscope can match your sanskars, but it is how you do it after your marriage, how those sanskars keep changing when you start interacting with each other. So that's what he mentioned. I asked Brother Brijmohan, what is more strong? Is it the intellect or the mind? So a beautiful way he explained that mind and intellect both are just two functionaries, and they are basically controlled by our sanskars. You see, sanskars is just coming up again and again in our talks here, because it is something what we like to call in the modern scientific language as your subconscious mind, because all the sanskars are filled in that. And we usually try to take decisions through intellect, or we try to think depending on what our subconscious mind is filled with. So the basic requirement is to change this sanskar. Again, divinizing the intellect and divinizing your sanskar can help to do that. And then your mind and intellect operate on that sanskar which we have developed. I'll take a few questions. Stock market, a beautiful question all the time comes. We know we want to make easy money, fast money. Should we invest in stock market? Bhai Sahab said no, because many other religions, particularly Islam, he mentioned also, they say that this is gambling. You can't be investing if you're a spiritual person, whether it's a BK or a non-BK, doesn't matter. But if you're a staunch follower of spirituality, it's better to use your money for worthwhile purposes rather than using it somewhere where you have a chance to lose it. And another beautiful question which Bhai Sahab answered beautifully. All of you are aware Brahma Kumaris is an international organization run by the sisters. They are the face of the organization, and the brothers are usually behind, acting as the backbone. So brother was asked, how do you use your ability of farsightedness to deal with the sisters and brothers in their organization? So Bhai Sahab said a beautiful word, I keep to my Lakshman Rekha, in the sense he keeps to his boundaries, to his limits. But that doesn't mean he is not helping us in any way. He said that each to his own, in short. The sisters are the face of the organization. So we always keep the sisters in the forefront. And absolutely, it's not disrespectful that the brothers are behind, but the brothers are sort of in one way the backbone. And it is not about any ego issues. It is about working together in sync, in harmony with each other. And at this time, it reminds me of Dadi Prakashmani, who was one of our previous administrative heads, a fantastic, far-sighted soul, I must say. And she used to always say, if you want to work in harmony, then har mano. In Hindi, it means, it's Hindi word, har manna means to try to consolidate. It's okay if your opinion is not being listened to in the meeting. That's okay. You accept, that's fine. Whatever is coming as a common thing is fine. I accept that. But it's okay if I'm not winning in any argument. It's okay to get defeated. But as far as it's for the benefit of the entire organization, it's fine. So she beautifully explained that. So that's what brother also alluded to, that he keeps his role in the background. And he always said that whenever he goes to meet all the VIPs, he's done a lot of VIP service in Delhi, going and meeting the Prime Minister, President, so on and so forth. He always takes the sisters, and that is a safety. It's basically one way. safe for us as well if the sisters are in the foreground or in the forefront. So with this, I would now, I'm sure Sister Jenna has joined. And before I go on to her, all of you very well know her. The ones who have joined from US and Canada are aware of it, but we now in India also know about her. She is, before I go on into her biodata, let me tell you, she is such a beautiful, humble soul. Despite being so reputed and despite being a celebrity in that part of the United States, Washington, DC, a very influential area, I mean, I just emailed her and she immediately said yes. So this is the beauty of the spiritual BK brothers and sisters we have with us. They are so great in whatever they are doing, but the greatness is directly proportional to the humility they have. And it's just amazing to be in company of such beautiful souls. So just to introduce Sister Jenna, she is the founder and director of the Brahma Kumari's Meditation Museum, which is located in the metropolitan Washington, DC area. And she's a very popular face on the television and even on the radios because she's the host of the popular show called America Meditating Radio Show. And she's received this President's Lifetime National Community Service Award as well for her achievements. She has actually been featuring in many of the magazines, to name a few, the Meditation, the Eden, and the Owl magazine. And she has actually been one of the 100 most influential leaders of 2015, has appeared in something called Empower a Billion Women 2020. I would just want to share my screen and show you a bit about her work so that you all know. I'll just bear with me for a minute. Yeah, I'll just stop sharing this and share another part. I wanted to show you all something about America meditating. I hope, Anu sister, it's visible. Just let me know if it isn't.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so, you know, a beautiful thing about Sister Jenna is she runs this program where East meets the West. And all of you are welcome to just visit this website on americameditating.org. And particularly, if you want to listen to this program, you can just subscribe to this, click of the button, and there you are, you can get all that. So while this page is on, I'll just take a few more minutes and introduce, as usual, I do with a poem. So Sister Jenna, bear with me a few more minutes. Sister Jenna gives this divine knowledge as an injection, which keeps people away from the pain, fear, and dejection. She teaches them indeed how to deal with the worldly rejection and gives them or their life a completely different projection. Because she is in charge of the Meditation Museum, so she tells them how to go inside by practicing introspection, which in turn gives everyone a totally new perception. And she finally tells us that without soul consciousness, we are in total deception. A few other paragraphs. She's the host of the popular America Meditating Radio Show, which tells us that no one in this world is your foe. On the show, she guides us on how to let go, which takes us away from feeling let down and low, because there are many circumstances which make you feel low. So she teaches us on that, how to let go, not to feel low. Meditation teaches us how to let our thoughts slow so that our life now radiates with a beautiful glow. And a few lines on the value of farsightedness. So by being farsightedness in my vision, I can then proceed on to my mission. Because in my hands now, I have this powerful seed, which is away from the dust, dirt, and the weed. I shall be victorious and successful indeed, not having to think of what I need, because now I have won over my greed, and the Almighty has taught me how to do a good deed. So with this, I would now pass.
Wow.
So thank you so much for joining.
Can I kidnap you and bring you to Washington, D.C.? That was so lovely. Wow.
Thank you so much. And you want to start by yourself, or you directly just want to do it as a Q&A dialogue?
Firstly, Om Shanti, everyone. And Bhai Duj, happy Diwali. And I'm so happy to be with Manoj Bhai and all of you today. Just to give you an idea, it's about maybe 30 degrees, which would be about maybe 1 Fahrenheit or one what do you call it? Right, 1 centigrade. And then it's quite chilly, but the atmosphere is very, very warm. And I think with Manoj Bhai and all that he has shared so far, I'm hoping that everybody's really sitting in this intentional place. You know, I woke up this morning, Manoj Bhai, with this deep feeling in me. Gosh, I want something new in me. And it's not that the divine God doesn't use me to keep creating new things. One of my blessings is that I'm very creative, and I've been given that blessing to catch new thoughts. But even apart from being creative, I just feel like there's something new, something to transform in my personality. And after hearing that poem, I think I found my answer. So thank you, and I'm happy to be with you all. And I think the points that you shared that Brij Mohan Bhai Ji had given us are huge points, everyone. And I think as simple and thoughtful as Manoj Bhai described them, I would invite us to just take a minute of silence together and just sit into this value of being far-sighted, which will help us to make our journey a lot smoother. Would that be okay, Manoj Bhai? So let's just take a minute of silence together. Just imagine, in order for us to have this kind of a mental interior silence, I'm able to see far into the future, whereby my present moment, I can make decisions that will not create too many bumps in the road. So one of the things I love in the Brahma Kumaris is a practice called traffic control, where every hour on the hour we pause for internal investigation. You know, like you're going in to investigate, you know, is there something happening in me that doesn't feel at peace with itself, or am I serving my happiness? And it's really the most important 30 to 60 seconds that you could spend on yourself every hour on the hour. So I encourage everybody to do that. Okay, so Manoj Bhai, let's do what we do best together and be more intrigued or curious or interested about our own interior development. And for those who have joined in, that perhaps you could join us on the journey with as much intention and sincerity as you possibly can. There's a reason why you tapped into that Zoom address. And there's a reason why you're dedicating this time for you. Your soul is asking for something. So let us not waste this time that we have together. All right, Manoj Bhai.
Yeah, thank you so much for that perspective. So that it sets the tone for starting the talk. It will be very simple questions. I'm sure Sister Jana is ready to answer all of them. The first question would be, what is your perspective on farsightedness? And can you just give us a few practical examples that in your spiritual life now, and even before that, did you use, I mean, before that, I don't know, you may be knowing that, did you use farsightedness before you came into this knowledge? A few practical examples, yeah.
So right earlier, Manoj Bhai, when you shared that it's a really challenging value to find the language to give it justice. Let me see if I can try. I would say, like what Brij Mohan Bhai was saying, that sometimes individuals who aren't spiritually awakened yet, the way they make their decisions is based on where they are, and maybe certain things that they feel are really needed for their survival, food, shelter, clothing, and all of these things. But sometimes when you have turned on the switch of your spiritual awakening, which is you want to be more in tune with feeling at ease and pure at heart with everything that you decide to do, then when you make a decision based on that experience of purity, then the results are generally always different. You will still get food, shelter, and clothing, but the return of it at a soul level would be different. So before I came into my spiritual awakening, I've had an interesting journey. You know, my father is Indian, my mother's African. I'm raised in the United States of America. In a way, there's farsightedness there already because I've broken through so many limits. You know, I'm not just Indian, I'm not just African, and I'm not just American. Get it? So when I see the world, it is different. It's my upbringing. I saw my father practicing his Hinduism, so that looked good and interesting. Then I saw my mother doing Roman Catholic rituals or, of the church, and I went, that was interesting. And then I had my own sanskaras, my own karmic journey, my own story in me. And just imagine when somebody with my kind of an experience looks through these eyes, the soul looks through these eyes, listens, speaks, makes choices. Where it comes from is already a more broader perspective of things. But even though that's physical, it still has also some connection to something subtle, that there are values that I've taken from my Indian culture, there are values that I've taken from my Western culture, and then they're just the values that I've been traveling with karmically for birth after birth. So when I look at farsightedness, I'm actually feeling more, it is connected to your power of intuition. Some people look at intuition as a psychic phenomena, but intuition is actually connected to the purity of the soul's personality, where that intuition has a deep sense of self-trust, that intuition has a deep connection to God, that intuition has a deep sense of experience, and that intuition has a deep sense of faith. And in that energy, there is something that is mystical. It's like magical. It is automatic that a situation, a circumstance will appear in your life. And when you recognize that you have to make the decision, there are two places that you can go. Go to the limit of your personality. Do I get money? Do I lose money? This person, that person, do they talk to me, not talk to me? Am I going to get? That's fine. But also check the way your organ of the heart feels when you're going to make a decision that needs to serve farsightedness or a lack of it. If you ever find yourself ever making a decision and your heart is racing, I would suggest don't do it. Not right then and there. Pull back a little bit, hold off, because there's a struggle between the limited part of your capacity, means there are certain things that are recorded in you that you're still not certain of. There is self-doubt. You don't think you have enough. You don't know if you think you're going to make it. And that energy has its own force. It's also recorded in sanskaras. In the Western psychology, we call it subconscious. But the other part of us, which is innately intuitive, that has the innate vibration and recording and sanskar of purity, When a situation comes or a circumstance and you need to make a decision and you want to be farsighted, and you use that element of your personality and those qualities and values, and you feel a very free flow of that decision or that moment, I'm guaranteeing this, it's going to be fine. You're going to make the journey really, really smooth. And one of the reasons why this value of farsightedness is so important is that you have to determine for yourself, do you want to live an easygoing, happy-go-lucky life, or do you just want drama? And so for me, I think as a child or even before knowledge, I just trusted. I trusted the future. I trusted my destiny. But at the same token, I can't say that I had all of the powers or the elements or the qualities ingrained deeply in me as a complete experience to guide me every step of the way. There are certain choices that I made that were not farsighted because at that particular time, there were different sanskaras that was motivating me to make a decision. Now you can have farsightedness for 5 days, for 1 month, and some farsightedness need like instant results. Like if I don't do this, I don't know how we're going to get to the next stage. So, there's an art in understanding, as Brij Mahan Baiji was saying, you also need to apply the power to discern in order to recognize that, okay, at this time, my farsightedness will only be for 5 days because I have to get the money to pay the bill. But after this, or as I'm going to this, I have to break the pattern of me getting myself in these positions. See, that farsightedness will come in a way to show you maybe what you're not doing right, that is creating such obstacles for you to be in this position. I have to tell you a recent story, and it might be a little bit off course, but maybe not. We were living in a beautiful space in Washington for 14 years. And it's where the center was at the beginning. And then we opened up the meditation museums, and we've been running those successfully very, very well. And that's even another story, seeing meditation museums in Washington, D.C., because the founder, Brahma Baba, had said, open up museums so that everyone in the world can come and see. So I had seen that ahead of the game many, many years before we opened it. It's just that the time hadn't matched the moment that I saw it in my consciousness. Anyway, long story short, and I know this is a question answer, Manoj Bhai, be patient with me. We're living in this place for 14 years. The last year, I'm getting touchings. Touchings are thoughts are slipping in my consciousness that don't belong there, such as, I think the owner of the place is up to something, or I don't think we're going to be here long enough. But since it is a godly home, there are folks living there that are practicing a particular way of living. It's important that there's a heater, the roof is working, paint up the place. And even though we were investing in the house to be upkept, deep down in my mind, I just knew something was going to happen. But because sometimes the mixture of an acronym that I use a lot, ALGE, A for anger, L for lust, G for greed, A for attachment, E for ego, that
Anu sister, if you can just mute all of them. Sorry for that. Sorry, you are muted now, Sister Jenna. Sorry. You have
I'm
to
not
unmute.
muted.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, even though I knew something was going to happen, there was still a little bit of the element of attachment that maybe something will give. Maybe we will end up purchasing the house. Long story short, I get a call in February, you have less than 2 months to move out. And deep down I go, I knew that. I knew that. And the plans that I had for the property to build and to have different spaces so we can have room and stuff for the friends and family of our community to be able to visit and stay, I remember them clearly in my head. but I thought it was going to be at that place. Anyway, in 4 days, everybody, we found a wonderful, wonderful property just 20 minutes from where we were. It's 7 acres, 9 bedrooms, 11 baths. And the property, you could see that it was just waiting for us to get here. Now, the farsightedness that's connected to this is I used to see this property, but I thought it was going to be that other one. So how does the farsightedness work? There were moments that I was tapping into my intuition, the purity, the power of silence, understanding the power of discernment, but yet not applying it, because maybe I didn't have to put the money in the old house, but I did anyway because the family was living there, so they should at least be also okay and comfortable, and the place should be clean. But I remember that when we got to this new property, what I had seen years ago actually happened. And within 4 days, we found a place. And within 3 weeks, we raised half of the money to purchase the property. And I could just see it. And what I meant by saying I could see it, there was no doubt or self-doubt or questions coming in my way to block the energy needed to make this an easy transition. So, in essence, farsightedness is tapping into the power of your pure intuition. And when you apply pure intuition in everything you choose to do, you will find that the path will be easy. When there's a mixture of your pure intuition and the sanskars of algae influence some of your thoughts or decisions, then it's as if you feel there's an obstacle. There'll be a tug of war. Your heart will race. You'll feel a little bit afraid, insecure. Then I tell you, hold back a little bit. Try to see if you can get some quiet moments and go not into what is just the immediate decision to make. That is there. But at the same token, see if you can balance it out more than anything else with the energy of intention that will be required to help you to make it a smoother transition for you. So Manoj, I hope that helped. I know that's a long-winded response to your simple question, but it is such a great value and it's such a great topic that I almost feel like I could speak for days upon days about this one.
Yes, that's perfect. That's the divine drama plan. I wanted you to speak more and you went on and on. That's perfect for the answers. So no worries. And actually my questions would be just one-liner, but you really have to expand them. It's fantastic. And my second question was actually about how the Washington, DC Center, I mean, you went into that. So you already went to, you covered that. So that's fantastic. Another question which you also have covered, actually quite a few questions you have covered, but I'll just take it for the sake of the benefit of the participants. You mentioned about algae. And I like this term which you use because it's something scientific, algae. It's easier to know the vices in that form. And I remember your shows with Sister Shivani on the Awakening with Brahma Kumari. Sorry, with Sister, not Shivani, Kanupriya sister.
Kanupriya.
The soul is not there anymore. She left in COVID. So what are the factors apart from algae is a big thing. Algae means the vices which Sister Jenna mentioned. But what are the factors which block my farsightedness? And how can I get rid of those factors?
Question. I would say that it has become blocked because of a long period of time. This morning when I woke up and I was telling you that I was just having this very strong feeling, there's something new. I need something new percolating inside of Atma. I'm okay with the person that I've become. I'm happy with the fact that every single day of my life, I'm in service to mankind and I'm not focusing just on me or I or mine. I love that my karmas are like this, and yet still, I need something new. Because even that can become a comfort zone. And sometimes when you create comfort zones inside of you, you actually start to feed a little bit of that algae, or algae, I call it. Anger, lust, greed, attachment, and ego This is what's on the surface of civilization. This is the reason for wars. This is the reason for divorce. This is the reason that even though there are arranged marriages, horoscopes are compatible, families like each other, when those two people come together, they recognize that the sanskars, which is a very subtle, deep, deep energy of the soul traveling for many, many births, when it comes together, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work out completely. I have a story of a young man. He and his wife, there was an arranged marriage. The priest and everything told him, she is the perfect fit for you, but only if you never practice spirituality. Long story short, he ends up with a whole movement of spiritual people, and his marriage completely breaks apart. Now, that's a complex story because in some sense, he's actually told she's perfect for you, but you cannot go into anything spiritual. But he ends up into a spiritual path with a guru, with a complete movement, and it completely changes the interpretation of the marriage. How come that wasn't told in his horoscope, that you will enter into something spiritual and your marriage will come to an end? He never told him that. He just told him, but you must not enter into something spiritual. But on his journey, he had to do it. So I think that when we look at the whole energy of algae, is this something that is carrying in the sanskars of souls for birth after birth? And I'm going to give you a very simple test right now. For 30 seconds, can you sit now without one thought in your consciousness that's not influenced by algae? Which means, can you sit there and not have a single waste thought or feeling for 30 seconds? For 60 seconds? For 90 seconds? For 2 minutes? Means no one's coming up in your consciousness. Means you're not having any desire for something else, are you? Means, are you split, doing 10 things at once? Or are you just in the power of your silence and stillness and purity and love and peace, that you're adding more power and strength to your personality? You see, the energy of algae is that when the soul enters the body, let's start with the beginning of the soul's journey. It's the beginning, no? So you have everything. There is nothing lacking. And as the soul continues to go through births and different faces, places, cultures, it starts to become slightly attached because now it's seeing more the power and the influence of the physical. And when you start to see the same thing over and over again, you even forget to even think about it after a while. And even today, when I was trying to make a cup of coffee, I was thinking, every morning I do the same thing that I don't even remember I'm doing the same thing. It's just ingrained in you. So algae has slipped into as sanskaras, it has slipped into our personality so gradually, so slowly. It's like a medicine that you take for 7 days or more for it to really kick into your system to start to do the work. So over a long period of time, Manoj Bhai and everyone, that algae was just getting more and more fed Because the soul started to become more attached to the body, the senses, relationships. It sees the physical form of life more than it's seeing the inner life. So after a while, that consciousness builds more power in the personality. So if you want to make a far-sighted decision and you're coming from algae consciousness or body consciousness, it will take the soul only to that dimension of its body awareness, which is why many times we're constantly struggling to get to the other level of a relationship, how to deal with now when he's upset or she's angry, or the boss or the government or an in-law. It's like we're only taking it one little step at a time because our decisions are still being motivated by the intention of algae. The opposite to algae, so beautiful. The opposite to anger is peace. The opposite to lust is purity. The opposite to greed is joy and contentment. The opposite to attachment is love. And the opposite to ego is wisdom and truth. Now look at what's happening in our souls. Who has more strength? Peace, purity, joy, love, or truth? Or anger, lust, greed, attachment, or ego? So have you ever seen like a cartoon character? What you have to do sometimes when you find that algae is very strong, visualize this, like the algae has become like a big monster that's puffed himself up in front of you and is looking down at you and telling you, do it like this. It's telling you, do it from that energy. And then what you have to do is recognize, but you're not the monster here. You're not bigger than me, the soul. And then you have to pump up the peace, the purity, the contentment and the joy, the love, and the wisdom of being an immortal, eternal, imperishable soul. And look at the algae and say, look, I'm going to be lasting forever here. So what that means, I want to live so happily in whatever body I'm in. So I'm going to show you who's bigger. So you have to find ways to pump yourself up. And in the same way, it'll come out if you're in front of a relationship that's really, really challenging. Whether it's your marriage, whether it's an in-law, whether it's your children, a relative, or a boss at work, or even your next door neighbor. You have to go inside and pump up your values and check in with your peace and your purity and your joy and your love and your wisdom and say, there is no way this algae is more powerful than my original eternal self. So you have to keep practicing that internal dialogue. And by practicing that, you're actually being farsighted because what you're communicating is whatever karmic situations are waiting for me in the future, internally, I'll be strong enough. I can handle it. I don't want to deal with it, but I will handle it because this soul conscious or spiritual idea of yourself is far stronger than the part of you that you've gotten so attached to or accustomed to, which is so limited in scope. So the algae, Manoj Bhai, it has been a gradual development. It wasn't always there. It wasn't always activated. And what I love about the teachings of Raj Yoga meditation is that it consistently says, turn your attention inwards and check how you're feeling. Are you okay? Are you in your soul awareness? Are you feeling the divinity that you came here on earth with or not? And if you're not, you must use the virtue of honesty and check. It's got to be an aspect of algae. That's the cause of our suffering. So with that in mind, then you start to do the investigation. Okay, now self, that is pure and powerful and immortal and eternal, come up, because I need you now as my superpower. By using it, then you start to realize your algae gets less. I hope that made clarity and sense, Manoj Bhai, because I speak from where my own explorations and experiments are coming from, because everything we're saying, everyone, it is so subtle. Everything that you will go through on a spiritual level is so subtle. And that's why it's important that you have a very intimate, private, close relationship with your thoughts. And the more you can build a relationship and an intimacy, a close feeling between you, yourself and your thoughts in here, you will be able to understand the power of being farsighted. It says, I'm going to look out for my own future and make it a peaceful one. And as a result, I will be able to help everyone else around me as well. So farsightedness will also help others along the way. It's not just looking out only for the self, but in looking out for yourself, you'll be able to take care of others too.
Wow, amazing. Just wanted to keep listening. But anyway, you broke me. I need to ask you a question. Okay. So fantastic revelation of the various aspects of subtleties. The more we start becoming subtle, we can start developing farsightedness. So another closely related question to subtleties is, you mentioned about developing the power of intuition. So I'll just speak about another word which is closely related to farsightedness and has the word sight in it, insight. So how do I develop my insight on this very subtle level so that I am farsighted always?
Spiritual knowledge for sure, but let's say you don't feel a connection to spiritual knowledge as such yet, or a spiritual knowledge that will challenge you to let go of things, but at least begin to pay attention to how you're feeling. I can't stress for you how important that is. The problem is that many of us have become so numb and so disconnected from ourselves that we don't even know how we're feeling. But needless to say, still keep checking until you can discern, I don't feel very confident, peaceful, happy, powerful, courageous, intuitive, creative, whatever it might be. Or if you're sensing that you're feeling all of those things, that is also an element of realization. But I feel that one needs spiritual knowledge in order to help them to cultivate insightfulness as well as their power of intuition. Every single human being on the planet is innately wired to be intuitive, because every single human being was born with the sanskar of purity in their personality. And it's only because we have turned away from the power of our inner purity that we don't feel our intuition, but instead we can sometimes come in front of somebody and you sense them up, right? Majority of the time, I always like when sometimes we go to India or we're meeting certain souls, as a culture, and I'm not saying this is everyone, because I think everybody does it, but sometimes in some other cultures, it's very, very obvious. So sometimes I will go where somebody, they kind of scan you up and down, and it's as if you feel they've made an impression of you, right? And you're like, oh, great, I have no idea what they're seeing right now. But they have that innate intuition. The thing is, and this is, you have to be very careful. If the energy of algae is what you've been serving for a long time, then what you tune into the person first and foremost is their algae. And then you'll be like, oh, they're like this, or she's like this, or he's like that. And you'll completely disregard where all of their virtues, their values, and their strengths are. And you'll give that maybe 10% of energy, if any. And so when it comes on to rebuilding, let's not say building, but rebuilding, being insightful and intuitive, go into the study of spiritual knowledge, but also check your feelings. Be very vigilant and very attentive. I'll give you a great story. The other day, I mean, we have the space is beautiful, but one of the neighbors or two have been like, you people are just way too happy and there are way too many cars coming here. So we had a little bit of an issue with the neighbors here. So one day, myself and the family were in the courtyard downstairs and we're having a heart-to-heart conversation, deep conversations, right? It's about 5:45 in the afternoon or something after tea. And all of a sudden, one of the sisters asked me an important question for her life, and I'm listening to her. But all of a sudden I says, let's go. Let's just go for a walk. And they're like, what? Oh, okay. And we got up, we went for a walk. And as soon as I got out the gate, there was the neighbor who had reported us or who had some issues with us. And right then and there, I had a chance to talk with her, to try to comfort her, to try to let her know that we're here to decorate the neighborhood and make it even more prettier and nicer than it was before we got here. And it was that insightfulness and that sense of intuition that even though I'm in the midst of a strong and an important moment in conversation, I don't let go of my connection to source. So whenever you have a consistent connection to God, Baba, Allah, Jehovah, Khuda, Bhagwan, Lord, Master, whatever's the language that comforts your consciousness to make God to be a very important relationship in your life. I call God Baba. I'm not letting go of Baba, even though I'm sitting in a room of people having a conversation. It's like he's my shadow, he's everything. And ever so often, he just distracts you. He takes you somewhere else. So in that moment, he told me, go there. They're coming. And it's my intuition and my insightfulness, but my paying attention to how I'm feeling, because when the thought came, it was such a strong feeling that it took my attention there. And I went, I have to listen to what Baba's saying. And the moment we came out and that woman showed up and we ended up walking down the neighborhood and back, the family that was with me, there was like, how did you know? Baba. You see, insightfulness and intuition will be strengthened when you are consistent in, let's say for me, spiritual knowledge, which is taught by the Brahma Kumaris, but also having a very intimate, close relationship with God. And why intimacy is so important is that every human being wants to feel closeness to another person. And the reason why, I don't know much about all the cultures, but in many cultures, human beings are going from one partner to another partner to another partner. And they're searching actually for intimacy, a sense of safety, trust, wisdom, growth. And if you're farsighted, knowledge will definitely teach you that the ultimate sense of intimacy will come when the soul accepts and commits to having a relationship with Baba, with the source, with God. And from that experience, then your intuition and your insightfulness is so alert. It is so sensitive. You could be at a party and you can just feel the call of someone else. Another story I'll tell you. We held our Diwali dinner here 2 days ago. When was Diwali? 2 days ago, right? So we had a wonderful Diwali dinner, well-known authors, award-winning folks, influencers and stuff. And there was one sister, which I had never met. She came with a friend of ours. She has written about 20 books in Persian. And I was sitting at the dining table and it was time for dinner. And there are all these people in the room. And as I looked up, just looked up at her and I just said, come. And as she looked at me, she came right over. She says, "How did you know that I just needed to be close to you? It's okay, just sit. We can eat and have a great meal." Even though I'm in the midst of many people, Baba still could touch me to say, this child really needs a lot of help and support. So the moral of my sharing is acquire a regular routine, something that is consistent and continues for you on a regular basis of spiritual education, spiritual knowledge. For me, in my practice, it's the teachings of the Brahma Kumaris, from what I call the Murli. I don't know what I would do without it. It's my guide. It just reminds me. And then the second stage is to pay attention to how I'm feeling, which for me, am I connected to Baba? Whenever I'm connected to Baba, I'll always feel good enough. When I'm disconnected from Baba, anger, lust, greed, attachment, and ego will take over my sight, which I will no longer have insight, but my sight will be out of sight. So I will be outside of myself. And there is so much fear if you're in that modality. So I share this with you with real experiences, I tell you, that you must decide for yourself at some point, if not today, that today is the day I will decide to stop feeding algae and feed my farsightedness by becoming more pure at heart.
Amazing, fantastic answers. I'll just ask you a very common question asked in India, but since you're also one of the BK sisters, such a senior sister in the organization, in Hindu mythology, it's a very common question that if you open your third eye, we are speaking about the third eye developing farsightedness, so I'm asking that. If you open the third eye, there is peril and destruction. So do you want to comment on the spiritual significance of this concept? Is there really destruction?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, so in a nutshell, my parents came into the awakening of the Brahma Kumaris when I was 17, going on 18, at the cusp. I saw my mother transform in front of my own two eyes within a matter of 6 months. I could see her change. Please keep in mind, my mother was orphaned at 7, abused, left on the roadside, had been in orphanages after orphanages after orphanages. She finally gets adopted, she and her 2 sisters. Then after 5-6 years, the family decides they don't want them anymore and pushes them back in an orphanage. I mean, just imagine the vibration of what they're going through, what she went through. So when she came into the Brahma Kumaris and her spiritual teaching, she was so bruised. I don't know what the word is for our culture to understand it, but she had been broken into so many pieces. There was no sense of an identity for her. And when she got the knowledge of being a soul and God being the supreme soul, she was able to finally find some kind of a spiritual integrity and knowledge to put the pieces of her personality and her spirit together. So when I witnessed that at 17, 18, I was like, wow, what a transformation she has made. And it was very inspiring. But for me, Manoj Bhai, a path of spirituality was of no interest for me. That's for individuals that have a lot of broken pieces. That's not for me. I'm good. For the life of me, I don't know how she took care of me and protected me from all the bruises that she endured as a child. But I guess it speaks to the strength of her character as a person. So as I started to grow and develop, everyone, I wanted independence, money, power, the looks, the achievements, the possessions. And so to me, I thought spirituality meant none of that. So I wasn't interested, but I would help my mom and the sisters of the Brahma Kumaris in whatever way I could. Long story short, opened up 2 really successful restaurants. nightclubs, had one more that I didn't even remember because I never went there, and then had a few other investments and businesses that I did. And my third eye was not open. I was focused on looks, money, who I was going to date, car that I was driving, where I was living, what brand name I was wearing, and the list went on. How my hair looked, makeup looked, where I was going, the food I was eating. Okay. I'm about 24. I'm in a country. I'm dating the son of the prime minister of that country. And I'm having the most incredible, deep awakening of my third eye. I wasn't looking to awaken my third eye. Some of us seek to awaken our third eye. Some of us don't. I was not looking. And while I was in that country and my third eye started to open up, everything was destroyed for me. I no longer thought that the clothes I wore, the car I drove, where I lived, defined who I am or defined my value. So that was destroyed. When my third eye opened, every sense of illusion that was fed by algae was crumbling. And when my third eye opened, I was ushered into this beautiful world that had the most beautiful people, had the most beautiful fragrance. And it wasn't that the old me or the old world as such for me was destroyed, but it was that they had realized that I was more than what they could give me. And it was almost as if algae was saying, we have to let her go. With her third eye opened now, there's no way we can influence her to think that we've got something better to offer her. Look what she has had. Very few young girls end up a millionaire by that time, and she doesn't sell her soul to get there. And so I had all of that, but my third eye was closed. I didn't know that I was an immortal, eternal, imperishable, pure, peaceful, and powerful Atma. And that the purpose of my existence here at this incarnation, in this birth, was to now be so open to allow God or Baba's energy to work through my personality, to be in the body and to have the energy of God's love that's an ocean, and God's peace that's an ocean, and God's purity that's an ocean, somehow be the expression. I mean, why are we in these bodies? Is it to keep suffering, to keep settling karmic debts of the past? Or is it to bring the energy of God's love through it so that we can deeply live? So when the concept of the opening of the third eye occurred in our culture, it is to say, you have lived enough of your algae consciousness, and it has been fun, has it not? Okay. Here is a tiny world, but with your third eye opened, you become the master of the whole entire world, which means wherever you go, you will feel a sense of belonging, and you will feel a sense of rightfulness and safety and protection and power. But you'll also feel like wherever you step your feet, it's as if you're bringing light into the space. Because with your third eye open, it means you're able to receive God as the ocean of knowledge, so that your choices, your thoughts, well, rather your thoughts, your words, and your decisions are useful, not just for yourself, but for everyone that you come in touch with. So thoughts are crucial. Your words symbolize a lot of what you think, but also just your choices. And in the way that you show up, the way you make your decisions will also prove what's at the core of your inner sight or your outer sight. It won't be hidden. It's very hard to communicate subtleties. So even when your third eye opens up and you are evolving and changing, don't even try to prove it to anybody. Just keep allowing the opening of your third eye, which means that insight is growing. It means that you're now finally giving the God the permission to work through you at the level of your sanskaras. And as you're just privately going through that process, maybe your friends and family will recognize that, and automatically that will change them. Or they might even just come and ask you, what are you doing? I notice you're a little bit different. So for me, Manoj Bhai, on a practical level, I'm not going to answer things that's based on bhakti, that when the third eye happens, the Vinash force comes and all hell breaks loose. When you decide to change your old ways into new, that is a Vinash. This is the destruction of an old idea of yourself. Imagine there was a time you would look into the mirror and all you saw was this face, and the face connected to all the other faces. And now when you look into the mirror, you're aware it's a soul inside, the soul behind your eyes, that is pure, immortal, eternal, imperishable, and powerful, that is bringing in God's light and God's energy, the ocean of love. And somehow the soul is now using the five senses in a divine way that is expressing God's presence. So when the third eye opens, it's actually giving permission for the energy of God's love to work through you. And that's why the opening of your third eye is so important.
So it's fantastic. One of the amazing answers I've heard, and I was looking for that answer. So I'm sure the person who had asked it answers the question. We don't realize how the time is just flying. Are you okay? We'll extend it a bit, 5-10 minutes more. I'll just take this last question, in the interest of time. How do we discriminate farsightedness from assumptions and doubts?
The results.
Okay.
By the results, like a lot of times when you look at the results based on how you're feeling, will determine that maybe next time around you can tweak that. Maybe I didn't come from the right place. Maybe I need to look at this from another perspective, right? And then secondly, if it just turns out really, really bad physically, then you know for sure that was an assumption. And it was not being farsighted or insightful, because there's just pandemonium everywhere. Now, what makes this a complex answer? At the end of the day, there's benefit in every scene that's taking place. Whether you think you're doing it the right way or you're doing it the wrong way, at the end of the day, you sense, I thought I was doing the right thing. And then it turned out so awful. And then you might realize maybe it's a collection of karmas too with everyone that I'm in connection with. And maybe I'll be okay at the end of the day. Or maybe I did need the discernment that maybe these weren't the people to bring into my decision-making factor, knowing that that would have complicated this situation. Or when I'm assuming things, check again. I go back again and again. Am I mixing algae? Because assumptions will definitely deceive you. Because sometimes we're trying to predict, or we're thinking only in one way how a person or a thing is, instead of seeing it from another perspective. I'll give you a great example, whoever asked the question. There is a beautiful hotel here called the Ritz-Carlton. And let's say that you drive up the car and the bell guy opens the door and you don't really give him much time. You go to the concierge and you check in and you don't really give the person much time other than you want to get your room and all of that. I'm going to give you a big story about this because when you drove up, you could see everything on the ground level too. Maybe you smelt the air and you walked in, the room looks great, wonderful, go to the concierge, fine. The bell guy comes, picks up your bag, takes you in, you smile a little bit. You go all the way up to the penthouse level of your hotel room. Barack Obama and Michelle Obama come out of the room next door. You're like all excited and you're talking to them. Oh my God, you're putting in most of yourself now into them. They just came out. They didn't take your bags. They didn't check you in. They didn't open your door. You weren't that excited to see them, but you were excited to see Michelle and Barack. Okay, fine. That shows a lot of where sometimes we assume things and it's coming from algae. And we miss the fact that the guy who opened my door, who took my bags, who checked me in, were the ones that I really should have given such importance to. But it can also prove, again, what I'm feeding. Assumption, algae, or insightfulness or farsightedness. Now, the story doesn't end there. You open your door to your room on the penthouse. What a beautiful view. What a beautiful view. You go on the veranda and you're seeing the city completely different than how you saw it on the first floor. Assumption is first floor. Insight and farsightedness is your penthouse. So if you want to see things from a broad perspective, raise your awareness of the way you see yourself and the way you see the situation and others around you. Go up and look down and you'll get a different perspective.
Amazing. The chat box, I'm trying to look at the questions, but there are no questions. There are more and more of comments. It's like amazing. People are getting their answers and they don't mind sitting on for another half an hour. But we should be respecting the time. There are many beautiful
I have time
comments.
today, Manoj. Manoj, I have time. I have a little time.
Fantastic. I
Yeah,
hope
but everybody that's on, I know on your Zoom you can have like a hand raise or a heart shape. Feel free to put it in if whatever is being said from Baba through me, if it's making sense to you, because these are things for practical application in your life that this pandemic, I think, also has us thinking about things, our third eyes reopening even more as a result of the pandemic. There are just certain fights and quarrels that they're just not worth it anymore. And what's happening when your third eye is open and your farsightedness is opening wider, you're realizing the most important thing is your spiritual internal power. You see, prior to the pandemic and prior to maybe the last 5 years, our survival was food, shelter, clothing, and it still is, people, connections, relationships. And it was tit for tat, going after this one and then. But if you look at what's happening with governments changing, societies are changing, cultures are changing, vibrations are changing, things are not the way they used to be. Children are learning on Zoom, meetings are happening on Zoom, the world leaders are still meeting on Zoom to decide what they're going to do economically. The economy is in a flux. The survival that's needed now, if you're farsighted, would be inner power. Because if you and I, we don't know, if a situation happens in my marriage, if I lose the breadwinner of my family, if my health goes astray, if my job is taken away from me, if my country goes to war, I'm going to need to be strong on the inside to survive this with dignity. And if I'm not strong on the inside, I'm going to become a casualty of algae. And there will be nobody to blame as a result of that. So I share this with you because it's my own personal feeling, being with the Brahma Kumaris and with the touching of Baba's light over and over again. It's like I need so many more years to serve the soul at such a level that no matter what challenges come my way, I will have the spiritual integrity and the spiritual power to respond with my integrity without me being deemed a casualty of the situation. So Manoj Bhai, that's why I was just sharing, raise your hands, put up your hearts if you're feeling that it's making sense to you, because this is our golden opportunity to make that shift internally. You know, a lot of times people will ask, how come you do so much? Well, you guys, it's impossible. There's some that will say it in a way that it's sort of demeaning. Oh, I don't know how they do it. And there's some will just say it like, oh, I'm so inspired by what you do. And I look at the way the two individuals will share the story of their observation of me and the family here in the team. The team and the family, we've been working together for so long, and I do have a law that we don't walk around with dislike or feelings of gossip for each other. It's such a waste of a valuable thing called life. But if we can redirect the energy and look at what's next, what is for service, or how do we work or be with each other to sustain each other, then that's life. So magical things can happen when everybody is on the same track. I'll tell you this, when me and the team and the family are on the ground floor, nothing magical ever happens. And if it does, it's really challenging. But when me and the team are working from the penthouse, the impossible becomes possible. So that's what I'm asking you to do, to kind of check into this. Be curious. Recognize that I really need my inner power now. I really do. And so however long or however short that's going to take you, let it be your own. But just see where there's certain behaviors now you don't need to feed. Maybe you don't need to look at your husband the way that you do, or your wife. Maybe you don't need to force your son or your daughter to get caught up in a marriage if they're saying no. Maybe you need to start to eat a little bit more healthier than you do. Maybe what you need is your inner power. And from that place, maybe that's where their path will unfold beautifully for them. It's still a process that I'm working on, Manoj Bhai and everybody. I don't like to dictate and tell. A lot of times I kind of wait to see, do they catch the thought on their own? I've caught my thoughts on my own. Nobody told me to do service for God and to keep inspiring the world to believe that this is the time to have a deep relationship with God. No one's forcing me to do it. No one's forcing me to get up out of my bed and go and change a life or inspire a life to be better. I should just be able to sense that. My farsightedness should intuitively say, this doesn't look good. The last story, I'm going upstairs, where we stay in Baba Bhavan. And actually I was coming down and there was a little paper on the steps. And I just happened to have passed it. I didn't even think of it. I had seen it, but I just passed it. But on my way up, I saw it again. And this time I picked it up and I went, wow, the age that I'm in, the confluence age, this age of great farsightedness and transformation, is the age of picking up all the debris along the way and getting rid of it. But when I was coming down, it didn't matter, let it stay dirty. So that means even when we're coming down spiritually in our stage, it doesn't even matter We throw away our values and our virtues and our beliefs and our goodness and our purity, because what's the use? I'm going down anyway. But when you start to go up, you can pick up the pieces along the way. It's like you don't have to clean yourself up completely at one time, but every step, there's a little bit of here. And I've noticed in my life, along my way, Manoj Bhai and everyone, I'll pick up the pieces along the way. I'm not one of those spiritual practitioners who feel like I have to clean up everything right now. It's like along the way, oh, that's been there, that's sitting there. Oh, that's broken, let's fix it now. And before I know it, I believe that as we get to that pinnacle moment where the great transformation occurs, I feel like if I look behind, there'll be a trail of everything fixed. I won't have to go back to fix it or pick it up, because while I was going up, I was just picking up pieces along the way and fixing it. That's my life story. That's my life story.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I'll just quickly take this one question. It's a BK sister asking, so you can answer that quickly. That when you were you were searching for the new house of Washington in Washington, DC, for the new Baba's house, how did you apply farsightedness for searching that place?
Things. On the day I was told, let's say it's on a Monday night, I went online and I just started to look for, there's a program we have in America called Zillow, and it's like a real estate company that you type in the things that you want and then you put an alert. So my farsightedness is I can't wallow in how absolutely disappointed I am with this man. But my farsightedness also knows that this is a soul I will not get into a battle or a fight with, because they will pay very dirty. So my farsightedness knew that I wasn't going to challenge him too much, because I actually got my next door neighbor to actually tell him that he was willing to buy the house for us. And there was just something that was going on in that whole process. My farsightedness was very aware, I don't want to trouble this soul. This soul is you have to be very cautious with this soul, because I think the algae plays a very different role in that soul's personality, and deities will not fight with algae. They will come up with another method, or an angel will not fight with algae. They'll come up with another method. So my farsightedness was, I was in tune with my disappointment, but I was more in tune with the fact that I have the family and the community to be responsible for. So my farsightedness was more on, we will get what is needed to be got. And even my next door neighbor that was going to buy the property for us, he had a house that was available. And he said, you can come and stay, and the family can stay in that house for a year or two until we find a property. And then I can build, because he was a developer. I'd be happy to build you a nice space that you can do your seva in. I sat, it was Shivratri. It was the ascension of the final offering of Bhog towards the soul of Daddy Goza. And I sat in Baba's remembrance, whoever asked the question. And my farsightedness and intuition said, go this way of the space. So within the 4 days, so much was happening, right? And when we actually, because of the energy of the farsightedness, knowing that I was responsible for something bigger than just me, that energy was actually bringing all the right energies and other peoples together. And then again, time played a very big factor. And then one of our Brother David, was searching online. He saw the property. I came out to see the property on the 4th day and met with the owners. There was a very profound experience, a mystical experience between the meeting of myself and the owners. And that's how the magic happened. Now, the irony was Sister Geeta, who has been Baba's instrument for over 3 decades, she's also plays the role of my mother, but now she has also an acute case of dementia. So she's in another world up here. The first day we left the house, she says, we used to live here. And she walked, and I knew that was one confirmation. The second confirmation, I would see myself on the veranda, just looking out, maybe having a cup of tea and looking at the family. It hasn't happened yet, but it will one day because we've still been so engaged. But I've seen it at the bottom veranda when I used to see myself and Sister Antonia and the team. We would be working in the bottom veranda outside on our laptops, and it came to pass we were doing that. Third, Brother Santosh had a dream where he was staying in his room, and sure enough, that was the same room that I hadn't told him that he would stay in when we would relocate. So farsightedness, as I mentioned earlier on, you will feel a very smooth transition. There's something about farsightedness that just feels like it's an equal flow. And even if somebody puts a rock in the way, it's as if your farsightedness goes around it. It's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. So to answer your question simply, I was aware of my disheartenment in the decision that soul made. But I was more aware of the importance of my role and responsibility in being a part of the story, moving the story forward, but also knowing that there will be benefit in this scene. Yes, I had moments where I questioned, have I done something wrong? Have I been wrong? Did I hurt something in my principle, in my Srimad? Why are we getting uprooted from a place we've done tapasya for 14 years? Then Baba says, Baba did tapasya for 14 years and he had to leave Pakistan. And I went, acha, okay. Things have to spread and change, go far and wide. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure the sister who's asked it, she's got the answer. And let me just quickly tell you the concluding, I would like to express my concluding lines here. So now we all have for Sister Jenna immense gratitude, and we shall make sure that we work on our attitude. Inspired by her far-sighted talk, let's also take this walk and try to walk the talk. So I hope all of us will do that. And now I would request Sister Claudia, who's eagerly waiting. We don't know today. We are not looking at the clock at all. The time is just with you. And thank you for your time so much, Sister Jenna. I'll now request Sister Claudia from Vancouver to express the vote of thanks. Over to you. You have to unmute.
Sorry. Om Shanti. It's very nice to meet you today and hear you talking, because we have met at the Peace Village, but I never heard you talking. So finally, it was very nice, and especially also as this subject is a very important subject. So I am sure not only me, but everybody really like it. And we are very, very thanks to you for being with us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. It's great to see you again.
Yes, nice to see you.
And just for the information of the participants who have started leaving now, Sister Jenna has already confirmed that she'll be there with us for a few more other workshops in the coming years. So thank you once again, Sister Jenna, for that. And I'll just quickly share the screen and make a few announcements, and then we'll go in the meditation with you, Sister Jenna. So as all of you are aware, tomorrow, actually today is the last day of Diwali. So tomorrow we have with us our very sweet senior sister, Shilu Didi. She'll be covering on the spiritual significance of Deepavali. And this is the Values for Life special event. So I'm sure you don't want to miss it. Tomorrow, it's the last special event of this year. Tomorrow, India time, 8 p.m. And the other times, we'll be sending you WhatsApp messages as well. Forward moving in our series is episode 26 on royalty by Sister Santosh Didi from St. Petersburg. And again, the workshop experiential will be next time with Sister Gopi, who will be joining from India. As we speak, she's in India. She's arrived today. And this is our elusive, elegant calendar. We send it in email, so you all can look at it and accordingly fix your timings. And very important, today it's, I don't know, I'm getting a very different feeling because we have never gone on so far 9:48 India time. So without much ado, we'll now go in the meditative mode with you, Sister Jenna. Over to you.
Well, how about that? I think our time together has been a meditation. Everyone out there, thank you so much for hanging in there with us today. And I hope I didn't go on too much. Actually, Manoj and I were going to make it really short, but it's such a great topic. And I've lived my life based on this. So I thought that let our meditation be more like a song, if that's okay. So I host these retreats with a lot of our celebrity guests from America Meditating Radio. And one of our celebrity guests is a singer from the Juilliard School of Arts, School of Music. And in the retreat, she came up with this Om Shanti song. And I just want to invite you into that feeling and to celebrate our time together, that when you close off your Zoom, you will go out there with your strong Om Shanti energy, and you will really think about the thoughts that Manoj Bhai shared and Brij Mohan Bhai and everyone else in the workshops, and perhaps even mine. And it'll just take you to that closer level, to your penthouse of looking at your life and the life around you from such a high perspective, okay? And just remember to keep valuing everyone along the way, everyone, so that there's no fluctuation in your motives or your intention. Just please come from that place where you're doing that self-service and it's serving everyone else out there. So enjoy this Om Shanti. It's going to be a little bit upbeat, Manoj Bhai. It's not going to be Zen. But you know what? It's going to still make you feel good. And that's what spirituality and meditation is all about. So
before we start, sorry to interrupt, we don't want to miss to, before we start, because we want to go with the experience. I know it would be out of the world, but we take a picture. Sister Jenna, we don't want to miss taking this moment to keep it for us forever. So before we get into meditation, if all can open up, switch on your videos. So if you don't mind, Sister Jenna, we can take a picture, all of us, and we always receive it after the program. So switch on your videos. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Sister Jenna, for taking this one moment. Okay, everybody, definitely we are looking from the penthouse. Let's not miss that. Okay, so right now, taking the picture. Okay, thank you so much. The meditation.
Yeah, so Brother Santosh has the, he can share the screen, right? Yeah, okay.
And so let's enjoy this moment together. And at the end, we'll just wave goodbye with a lot of love and pure vision.
Do you hear it singing?
Thank you, everyone. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much. Amazing, wonderful video. It was very much meditative as well. It was not hip hop. It was. We'll take the link from Santosh Bhai soon. Everyone wants it. Yeah. Hope that's fine. Yeah.
So you could use anything. Just go to the Meditation Museum YouTube. You can get all the treasures on there. Thanks, everyone. It was great to be with all of you in Bharat and Canada and all around the world. It's so beautiful. Baba has always spoken about doing world seva. And now every single Baba's child that I've met or I know or even instrument, they're no longer hidden. They're in service all over the world. Sister Claudia, Manoj Bhai, everybody, even if I'm not calling your name, how great is your fortune? How beautiful it is that we get to keep shining Baba's light through our features. So lots of love to everyone and lots of pure feelings and good wishes. Thank you again, Manoj Bhai, for having the thought to bringing me. I deeply appreciate your thought.
Thank you. And you're a regular faculty of our workshops now. I'm not going to leave it.
I'm all yours.
Thank you. Thank you indeed. Thanks. Thanks to Baba. Thank you. Bye-bye.